Welcome in, everybody. Getting ready for another VSiN at the track here. Mr. Halterman, how we doing?
Doing good, man. Yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be a good show. We've got a lot to talk about. We got some controversial topics, at least one that we're going to talk about. So that'll be fun. Get you fired up, Somich, on a Friday.
I know. I like it when we get content given to us by some of these trainers. And I love that we've got Saratoga past performances out for Wednesday as well already.
It's very nice when that pops up on the past performance sheet or the entry sheet or whatever you're looking at. When you see that word Saratoga, it does kind of make you smile. At least it does for me to know that that's coming up. So yeah, I was pumped. I knew that they were going to run Wednesday, but I had halfway forgotten because last year I think it was just Thursday through Sunday, where this year we get Wednesday through Sunday. So yeah, that was a nice little bonus yesterday as I was working.
It is. We got to hold off the rain because if you look at that Wednesday card, you've got a grade 1 hurdle in the first race. You've got an awesome maiden special weight in the third race. The fifth race is a great N1X allowance, and you've got 2 stakes on the turf in the 7th and the 9th as well. Saratoga weather always been an issue in August. Hopefully it's not one here in June.
Why even bring that into the atmosphere for us? It's Saratoga, dude. It can happen. It can happen. Any day it could happen up there.
The nice part is it's supposed to rain tomorrow and Sunday, but then be clear for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So hopefully we get good weather set up for the weekend.
I'm really hoping so, because there's no better place when the weather's great than Saratoga.
This is VSiN At The Track, the road to the Belmont Stakes. Now here's your hosts, Mike Somich and Aaron Halterman.
Welcome in, everybody. Another edition of VSiN At The Track, road to the Belmont Stakes. Just a little over a week away from the third jewel of the Triple Crown, Aaron. Just 5 days away from Saratoga opening back up on Wednesday. Cannot wait for that to happen. I always love it when we get racing from the spa. And we've got another jam-packed show. Thanks to Belmont. I appreciate him coming out yesterday and making some comments that are a little bit controversial, Aaron. So we have to jump into those as well during the show.
Yeah, some trainers might need some PR work. We'll just kind of put it like that. Somich, not the smartest things that were said yesterday in public, but anyway, yeah, we'll kind of update the Belmont news. We'll update everything that's going on there, and yeah, we'll kind of address this ongoing situation of the Triple Crown or lack thereof, and kind of a topic that we put to rest that now is back up because of what a certain trainer said. So yeah, a lot going on in this show today. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, not the first time, and it won't be the last time a trainer should have a PR rep there to help them through some of the decisions that they make when a microphone is in front of their face. You mentioned it. We've got a lot coming up here on the show. We're going to kick it off with some Triple Crown news, talk about Belmont's comments and Sovereignty's workout over at Saratoga yesterday. We'll hit up the Belmont Stakes probables, which we were waiting for that unknown entry. It seems like Mike Rapoli is going to give it to us. It's just the question of what Rapoli horse actually ends up into the field. We're going to cover a couple stakes from Churchill Downs. Phenomenal weekend of racing, specifically Saturday at Churchill Downs. We'll take a look at the Blame Stakes as well as the Arlington Stakes. And then I'm going to say part of the family here. Good friend of both mine and yours, Dan Tordjman, going to join the show from America's Best Racing in the third segment. Excited to hear what he has to say about what they're prepping to do for the Belmont, his thoughts on the Triple Crown, as well as everything they're doing with Griffin Johnson over there in the Sandman ownership piece of it. So action-packed show here, Aaron. Looking forward to our guests, and I'm looking forward to covering those last couple races, including the return of a previous Derby winner, Mystik Dan, headed back to the track.
Yeah, he is headed back to the track looking for that first win since the Kentucky Derby last year. So we'll see if, stay tuned. We'll see if he's going to get the job done there. It is crazy when you look at it, and we've talked about it a lot with Kentucky Derby horses. Sometimes what happens on the first Saturday in May stays in the first Saturday in May, and it does not translate when you look forward to the races. And so that's something we'll talk about with Sovereignty next week a little bit as well. So yeah, but Mystik Dan is back. And listen, when the former Derby winners run, it is exciting no matter what. So, and those races at Churchill Downs are fantastic, Somich. It's really going to be a good weekend. So yeah, looking forward to that. And then, like you said, Dan Tordjman coming on, one of the good ones, like you just said, really good guy. So looking forward to that conversation as well.
Yeah, anytime Mystik Dan is running, I am betting the race because I will not be betting Mystik Dan, and a lot of the public enjoys betting past Derby winners. So we'll get to that one in segment 4. Dan coming up there in segment 3, but we got to kick it off here with Triple Crown news, and we'll start with the positive here, Aaron. The Oklahoma training track available up there at Saratoga. We're seeing some of the contenders start to work. And yesterday, the buzz was Sovereignty, who looked phenomenal for trainer Bill Met. I'm not sure if you watched the workout, but was up against Arthur's Ride, who is a grade 1 winner at Saratoga. So one of the better horses in Belmont's barn. And he just looked like a beast. He looked stronger than he did in the Derby, was very energetic for the workout. The time was a little bit slow, but all of the times on the Oklahoma track yesterday were a little bit slow. Bill Mott's comments coming out of it was just glowing. He said that he looks, like I said, stronger and more aggressive than he did in the Derby, and that he was very impressed with what Sovereignty was able to do in the workout. This isn't one of those situations where heading into the Derby, everyone's horse is working the best they ever had. You don't hear that when you get to these other Triple Crown races. What do you make of what Sovereignty was able to do over the track yesterday?
Yeah, you said it very well about the hey, when you lean up to the Derby, they all look great. They're all amazing, but when you get to this situation, that isn't the case. There's not trainers out there kind of, for lack of a better word, trying to, hype up their horse. It's just like, okay, now we're on a regular everyday racing schedule. And so you looked at what he did, and I watched that workout as well. And look, I don't care what the time was. That horse was well within himself. He was just out for a little stroll, and he just absolutely looked amazing. And he, like you said, he looks bigger, stronger than he did coming into the Derby, where, oh, by the way, in the Kentucky Derby, he ran the best race of his life and was able to obviously win that race, running, much better than we had seen from him in the past. So all really good things there. And you talk about Arthur's Ride, and here's one thing that I thought really stood out to me. Arthur's Ride, yes, he's a grade 1 winner, and he's a very nice horse when he's at his best. He's a horse that has a lot of early speed. Sovereignty is a horse that doesn't have any early speed. Usually when those two different styles of horses work out against each other, naturally the horse that has the early speed usually outworks the one that comes from off the pace, because they're working at a shorter distance, and that horse with early speed is usually used to just going, quite frankly, just going faster than the horse that's coming from behind. All that to be said, for Sovereignty to outwork Arthur's Ride is one thing, and it's a very impressive thing. But for Sovereignty to outwork a classy horse that has early speed and should have an advantage in a 4 furlong workout over him, for him to just kind of dust him, that's a really good sign that horse is really sharp right now. And look, a really sharp Sovereignty is probably going to be tough to beat next week.
He will. It was interesting. Bill Mott made a couple comments. The one that didn't catch as much notoriety specifically was, I think Sovereignty has a phenomenal chance, assuming the track is fair. And that's been one issue we have seen at Saratoga, specifically when there is water in the track. Speed's been very good. But as you mentioned, to be able to work with a horse like Arthur's Ride, who has won a grade 1 at Saratoga going gate to wire, shows you a lot of positive signs for Sovereignty there. But the comment that really made some noise, I'm going to read this one off real quick, from Mott yesterday. If there was ever a horse who would have been able to try the Triple Crown, I would have tried the Triple Crown with, he might have been it. He's big, sturdy, came out good, Mott said. There are no reason physically we couldn't have run him in the Preakness. We had no excuse other than we didn't feel like it. The word Preakness didn't even come into our conversation. When you have a horse like that, you talk about a lot of things, but the Preakness was not one of them. Pretty strong words from Bill Mott and the Godolphin ownership group there, that they didn't even consider the Preakness, even though Sovereignty was in good shape and a horse that probably could have handled it. Obviously, this makes waves. We talked about the idea behind the spacing of the Triple Crown, if it made a big difference to get horses into the Preakness. And clearly in this case, in Sovereignty's case, he would have been there had there been more time between them. But they didn't even consider going there. And it's a shame, because the way the race played out, Sovereignty probably wins by 3 or 4 lengths, because he would have gotten that Sandman trip on the outside, been away from all the trouble, and been able to just roll right on by everybody. But what do you make of Bill Mott's comments coming out and pretty much saying, hey, this horse could have done it, we just had no interest in going to the Preakness.
Yeah, there's a couple of lines in there that just make you want to scream. We didn't feel like it. That was one where I chuckled just like you chuckled when you read it. Like, really? You just said that out loud? Hey, there's no reason. We just didn't feel like doing it. Okay, that is a huge slap into the face, not only to the Preakness and the people in the Maryland Jockey Club there at Pimlico. I mean, a huge slap in the face to them, but a slap in the face to the horse racing fan and even the horse racing bettor in some regards, to just kind of say, you know what? Hey, now that I'm looking at this horse, I think he could have done it. Okay, well, that's crazy. Why didn't you do it? And then secondly, yeah, you know what? He was great physically coming out of the Kentucky Derby. We just didn't feel like doing it. I know, like, realistically, like real talk. Yeah, sure, that's what happened, right? I don't want that out in the public, and I don't want them to confirm my thought already that, hey, they just didn't want to go. That is a horrible thing to put out in the public. A lot of people are upset about it. Again, realistically, you kind of knew, yeah, that's the reality of this situation. But you also, as a horse racing fan and enthusiast, that's just something you don't want some of your main, people, whether it be the owners, Godolphin, or the trainer, Bill Mott, to kind of put out in the ether there. So pretty horrible comments. And maybe they should have just lied and said, hey, you know what? He wasn't doing all that good after the Derby, and that's why we didn't go. And then we all would have moved on with our lives.
You could have at least said, hey, we considered the Preakness. We just didn't think it was the best in the situation for the horse. That would have been the perfect thing to say and just move along. But the fact that, like, we didn't feel like it never was even in the conversation, that's what you keep to yourself. You don't need to say those things. I appreciate the honesty. Maybe tone it back a little bit here. And I defended Bill Mott quite a bit coming out of this because I think Godolphin, in a large part, made this decision. But this is hard to defend Bill Mott on these type of comments when he says this stuff. And he's a phenomenal trainer. I like the idea. I mean, we talked about Mystik Dan, right? Mystik Dan has not won since the Kentucky Derby. I do think him being in all 3 Triple Crown races took something out of him. I like the idea that we see sovereignty around for a 4-year-old season, that we get more sovereignty later in the year. But at the same time, you don't have to come out and kind of give us the slap in the face around it. Now, if you are looking to bet the Belmont, make sure you head over to our partner, First Bet. The final jewel of the Triple Crown is here, the Belmont Stakes, and there's no better time to bet the races than right now with firstbet.com. New users get a $200 sign-up bonus. Just use promo code VSiN200. Whether you're a seasoned horse player or brand new to the sport, First Bet has all the tools to elevate your game. Download the app. Go to firstbet.com/VSiN to sign up today. That's firstbet.com/VSiN. Promo code VSiN200 for a $200 bonus. Now, Aaron, we did get a little bit more news as well here. Mike Rapoli, who obviously wants to win the Belmont at Saratoga, is trying to figure out who the heck's going to enter, right? We've heard it might be Crudo. We've heard it might be Grande. We heard that Uncaged has now entered the conversation off a 6th place finish in the Peter Pan. What do you make of Rapoli just trying to find someone to get into this race?
Well, look, I really think Rapoli wants to run Grande. Grande's his best horse. If you go back to listen when we were talking about the Kentucky Derby when Grande had to scratch, but before that we were like, hey, Grande could win this thing. The problem is he has no workouts since like April, so he's not going to make it. It's just that simple. So then you are left with, okay, we're going to go Crudo, who was very impressive a couple weeks ago in a smaller stakes race at Pimlico. He's a logical entry here for sure. The Uncaged situation is hilarious. We previewed the Peter Pan and we were both like, I don't know about him. And then he didn't run very well. And now we're going to go to the Belmont off of that. So I think Crudo will be the final answer, but it's Rapoli. He's done crazy things in the past. We'll see.
Yeah, he mentioned on X that if he enters Uncaged and Uncaged runs 7th, he only needs 60 Qs to get first. So we'll see what happens there. More here on VSiN At The Track, covering the Belmont entries here in the next segment. You know, Aaron, I was kind of bummed that this was Uncaged and it wasn't Disruptor, a horse that I still want to come back and run in one of these Triple Crown races after the Florida Derby break that was absolutely awful. It obviously says that Grande not going to be there. And you mentioned the workouts, nothing since 425, not going to be in the field. Were you surprised it was Uncaged that was the horse that he talked about?
I thought it was a joke. I got a text message saying, "Hey, uncaged to the Belmont," and it was from a guy that usually just says stupid things to me over text messages to try to get me going. I was like, "That's a good one, buddy." And he's like, "No, I'm serious." And he sent the tweet. I was like, "Wow, okay, all right." So yeah, I was shocked. And look, I'm with you. Like Disruptor, I don't know. Maybe they've got a different kind of plan for him or something like that. They, maybe summer campaign. But I'm with you. Like Disruptor would be one that wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, Uncaged is very surprising. It would be very interesting if that horse enters.
Yeah, like Rapoli's tweet was, Rapoli Nation, what do you think? Could be a 6-horse field, 5 vet scratches away from winning the Belmont Stakes. Should we run Uncaged? It's like, all right.
All righty. Yeah. Okay. That's who people want to be the commissioner of horse racing. So just think about that for a minute.
I mean, he's not wrong. He is technically 5 vet scratches away from being the favorite in the race.
It's fair. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's fair, very fair. I love that he said vet scratches too. That's hilarious.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that might be a poke at the Kentucky stewards there, because Grande was a vet scratch,
Yes.
and he did not believe he should have been.
Correct.
You're tuned in to VSiN At The Track, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome back in here, VSiN At The Track, road to the Belmont Stakes, and we've got the chat popping off here over at VSiN Live on the YouTube channel. Welcome back, Ron Esterman. Shoddy, good to see you, better boss. And RL Hunter brings up an interesting question, Aaron. The real question everyone wants to know is who would win a foot race, Mike or Aaron? Who you got? You think I can beat you in a sprint, or you think you got me?
I'm going with you. I'm going with the
I
smart
would be the
money.
favorite.
I would
be the
listen,
favorite.
man, we always say in betting, don't bet with your heart or don't bet with emotions. Bet with the logic and bet what you see on the paper. I've seen you run before. I'm going you.
I will say this: I would be a favorite, but I would be like dropping in class, right? I'd be going from like the, we'll call it the allowance level to the claiming level. I could be injured. I have a higher injury probability if we run a race than you do. So that's the one gotcha: is will I come up lame at some point? Yeah, so
That's
it's
fair.
a
I
tough
forgot
handicap.
about your injury. So I think I might. You know what? Well, it depends on how long the race is. I think. I think if we go longer, I will be very slow towards the end, but I might finish where you might not. So distance is going to matter in this situation.
We could definitely have a turtle versus hare situation here, where I get out to a big lead and then just pull up at some point during the race, and you're able to catch me late. Ron Esterman asking in the chat, anybody know when the draw for Belmont weekend is? The draw for the Belmont Stakes is on Monday. I assume the entire card will be drawn by then. Naira usually draws in numerical order from a day perspective, which would mean we should have Thursday and Friday's card drawn earlier on Monday, hoping we have full PPs out for the entire weekend by Monday afternoon. You think that's, or I should say Tuesday morning, you think that's realistic opinion, Aaron?
I do think so. Yeah, I think we will, mid to late night on Monday. I think we will have past performances. I think we will know who all is going to be running by then, and then be able to get to work. So I really wish they were drawn at Saturday or Sunday, but it is what it is. I guess we'll take Monday. But yeah, I think the past performances will come out very quick, and then then it's time to get to work.
Yeah, it's going to be a grind. I love the fact that we get these days at Saratoga, but it means that we'll be in action on Wednesday through Sunday there and get a lot of solid racing. So make sure you take a look at that. Head over to racenews.com if you do want any picks in that side of it. And Aaron, let's look ahead now to who we believe is going to be in the Belmont. At this point, I'd say we have 6 confirmed horses that are in the entry box. That would be Baeza, Hill Road, Heart of Honor, Rodriguez, Sovereignty, and Journalism. Right now, we've got the question mark around the Rapoli runners. I'd say Grande probably not there. Crudo and Uncaged, both possible options. And then Captain Cook also has entered the conversation for Rick Dutrow. We'll see if that's one that sticks inside the conversation. What do you think we end up seeing from a field size perspective? Are we going to get 6? Is it going to be 7? And what do you make of Rodriguez and his trip to try and get to the Belmont Stakes?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack, even though there's not a lot of horses to kind of deal with, like a Derby or even the Preakness for that matter. But there's a lot of kind of, man, we're iffy on it. And Rodriguez, I think, is a major, major key to the whole race because there's not a lot of speed signed on at this moment. And if Rodriguez can get into the race, all of a sudden he may be the lone speed on a track that is speed favoring a lot of times, especially when you're going a route of ground. So I think Rodriguez is in his, like you said, his journey of getting here is interesting because if you remember, he scratched out of the Kentucky Derby and then it was like, all right, we're going to go to the Preakness. He didn't even enter the Preakness because they basically said he can't run before the entry box or the entries even happen. And so now here we are again. And do we believe he's going to run or not? He did have a really nice workout. So I think he is going to, it looks like he's got a better chance of being here than the first two for sure. But yeah, he's very interesting. I still think journalism, while I think the connections being the owners and the trainers and the trainer really want to do it, I still think he needs to come out this weekend and show a little bit, have a little bit of a nice work to really firm up his status. And then, like you said, I don't really think Captain Cook's going to run. It sounds like the Ohio Derby is where they're going to go with him, a little bit of class relief. However, it's like what we said last week. Some of these guys, it's like, hey, if this thing comes up 5 or 6 horses, we're going to throw him in there because why wouldn't you? It's the Belmont. Crazier things have happened. We could get third or fourth, So will we see another late entry, to the discussion as well? That's something we're going to monitor over the next couple of days. But when I really look at this field, I think Rodriguez is a key entry because of the pace situation, one way or another.
Yeah, we were sitting here 3 weeks ago and talking about the Preakness fields and would we get any of those entries that were unexpected. We ended up getting a couple of them. So we had a little bit bigger of a Preakness field than we thought we would. But a lot of the horses like Gosker, who ran second in the Preakness, like Sandman, who ended up running third in the Preakness, are already pointing toward other races down the line. So it's unexpected that we'll get either of those two entries in here. I am interested to see if there is a random entry box movement here because, again, with 5 or 6 horses, it makes sense to try and take a shot against this field, even with how top heavy it is. I think that's the other important part to mention here. I mean, you've got journalism, you've got sovereignty, you've got Baeza. If all three are in there, this is not an easy race to go after. It's probably very hard to crack the top 3. I think that is keeping people away. I thought it was interesting what you said about journalism because the assumption is he is in this race. We don't have official word that journalism is going to enter this race. And right now you can find fixed odds markets, which I think is just fascinating because you have journalism as we'll call it a minor question mark. I do expect he runs, but it hasn't been officially announced that he will. And Rodriguez, who I think is still a pretty big question mark, his works have gotten better. I would assume the foot injury is behind him, but you still never know with something like that if it's going to pop up. And when you do look at fixed odds markets right now, you've got Sovereignty and Journalism, who are your co-favorites at plus 150. Then you've got Rodriguez, who is your third choice at plus 500. You can find Baeza at plus 600, plus 700, and it goes up from there. Does anything jump out at you when I talk about those fixed odds markets? Anything you want to get in the account now?
Yeah, it absolutely does, and it's Baeza. Baeza is the one that I'm looking at right now and saying those are too high of an odds. You said plus 600 or plus 700. I don't think there's any way Baeza that would be 6-1 or 7-1 on race day. That's not going to happen. I'm just going to tell you that right now. He's going to be more like 3-1. And you said it, the big key, they've got Rodriguez there as the third choice in these fixed markets right now. He may not be in the race, but he's going to take money. And so that is juicing up the price there on a horse like Baeza. And I liked how you said it. Journalism is kind of a minor question mark where Rodriguez, just because of the history of the last 2 races where he didn't run, kind of a major question mark. But yeah, look, I think Baeza at that price is crazy. I certainly think he's going to be bet a lot harder than that. He is a horse that, as we sit here right here today, before we know the field yet, I think we both really like him. I don't know if that's going to be the final pick or not. I don't want to, commit to it yet, but we both really like him. And I think both of us would be doing a backflip if we got that kind of price on him. And if he's there to be had right now, because here's the deal. There's no question he's running as long as in the next 4 or 5 days he stays healthy, right? So I really like that price on him.
Yeah, I financially committed to it yesterday. I did take some Baeza at plus 700. Not available right now at the site that I bet it at, so I don't want to give that out there. But the plus 700, I think, is a pretty good value. I honestly think if you get over plus 500, I would be betting Baeza in this spot because, look, if Journalism and Rodriguez don't go, he's well short of that, right? And specifically, if Rodriguez doesn't go, I think it's a benefit for Baeza more than anybody else, because Baeza has the opportunity to be the speed in this field if Rodriguez is not there. If you go back and you watch the Santa Anita Derby, Baeza was faster than Journalism early. I think he possesses more speed than Sovereignty. Crudo, I guess, is another horse that could be forwardly placed if he ends up drawing in. But, if you've got Pratt on Baeza, you think you have the best horse, and Pratt does think that Baeza is better than Journalism. I wouldn't be shocked if they decide to just hit the go button from the start and he becomes the one to catch going that 1.25 mile distance.
I would agree with you. And I think I want to be clear to the people listening. The big reason why we're talking about pace so much and things that could happen with the pace. Think about Sierra Leone last year. And I want to make what you said about Bill Mott, a comment he made that isn't getting a lot of attention. He said, if the track is fair, right? And Saratoga sometimes is not fair. And again, think about Sierra Leone from last year. He's a horse that was very similar to Sovereignty. He came from the back. He lost all 3 of his races at Saratoga. He didn't win any of them. And why? Because that track played very tough for closers when he ran up there last summer. And then you look at his other races. He won the Breeders' Cup Classic. He almost won the Kentucky Derby, and he won 2 Kentucky Derby prep races. So his resume outside of Saratoga was fantastic. So that's why I keep, and you as well, keep harping on, for Sovereignty, as good as he might be doing, if that track doesn't play fair, he is going to need a lot of pace. And if it's not there, that's when, hey, oh my goodness, Baeza's on the lead, or he's really close to the lead. He's 6 or 7 lengths ahead of Sovereignty. At Saratoga, that's a different type of feeling than maybe if they're at Churchill Downs or some other tracks around the country. So how that track plays and what that speed, situation is going to look like up front is really going to have a huge impact on who I believe, obviously, I think at least will be the favorite in Sovereignty. So that's why the field and what happens up front is really important there at Saratoga.
Now, Ron in the chat asking if Rodriguez doesn't go, do we get a last-minute Baffert in here? I don't think we do. Do you?
Sounds like no. It sounds like it's Rodriguez or nobody at this point. So
that again, Baffert would be affecting the pace. It looks like it is not going to be any horse if it is not Rodriguez here for the Belmont Stakes. Stick with us after the break here. Dan Tordjman coming up from America's Best Racing. Ron, real quick to answer your question here, where do you guys get fixed odds? I just scour the U.S. books. So if you look at DraftKings, if you look at Caesars, you look at MGM, you'll occasionally see some of them post up fixed odds. They don't always last very long, which is the issue with it. But if you just check all of those and consistently look through it, then you can find every now and then those fixed odds markets. The Derby obviously is a very easy one to find. Breeders' Cup Classic is usually up once you get closer to it. But generally you can find the other Triple Crown races as we get closer to the draw. Aaron, wanted to bring up Shotty's comment in the chat as well. I think it's telling that 4 Derby runners, specifically Final Gambit, are coming back the same weekend, but are choosing to run in the Matt Winn at Churchill Downs instead of the Belmont at the Derby. It really talks about how scary those top 3 at the Derby are. I completely agree with her. I think that there are people choosing to avoid the Belmont because of how good they think the top 3 from the Derby are.
Yeah, I would agree. That is the reason why you're not seeing a huge field. And there's no doubt about it. Those 3 are so good, and they've scared some horses off. I will say this, though. We have got a lot of, how am I going to put this while we're on the air and not how I would say it to you? We've got a lot of trainers that are just scared and very, let's just call them conservative. It's like these horses are 3 one time in their life, and you're going to skip the Belmont for the Matt Winn. I mean, give me a break. I would not do that. If I had a 3-year-old at that kind of caliber, they would be at the Belmont. So it's kind of chicken, you know what, in my opinion.
Yeah, take your shot, man. Right? Like, I get the Derby is that
Don't
awesome
get
race
it.
everyone wants to be in. Belmont's not bad, especially at Saratoga. Take your swing.
Exactly.
You're tuned in to VSiN At The Track, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What's going on, everybody? Mike Somich here. Welcome back into VSiN At The Track. He is Aaron Halterman, and we are helping lead you up to the Belmont Stakes. We've got some races we're going to cover from Churchill Downs here shortly. We're hoping to have Dan Tordjman join us here in this segment as well. But I want to bring up a comment in the chat that Shadi brought up. We talked about it during the break, but I think it's important to note we've got multiple horses from the Derby that have decided to come back at the Matt Winn, which is a lower graded stakes, at Churchill Downs the same weekend as the Belmont at Saratoga. She mentions that really speaks to those top three. Do you agree with that? I do. I think it's the top three in the Derby were that good.
Yeah.
People want to avoid them.
Yeah, I do agree that is why you're not seeing more horses. Like, we're going to get 6 or 7 horses, and you're not seeing that Final Gambit or that Burnham Square type of horse because they just want to avoid the top 3 horses there in the Belmont Stakes. I will say this, though, Somich. I said it on the break. I'll say it in the air here. That's a little bit of a wimpy thing to do because, look, these horses are 3-year-olds only once. Only 3-year-olds can run in races like this. Why not take a shot, especially when you see it and you're like, hey, it's 6 horses. Hey, but let's take a shot. If you're Final Gambit, who ran a great 4th, if you're Burnham Square, who I thought was getting ready to run a huge race and had traffic trouble in the Kentucky Derby, why run on the same weekend in a much lower race when you could go take a shot at the Belmont? It's horse racing. Like, what if journalism is just exhausted and he doesn't run very well? What if the pace doesn't set up for sovereignty? All of a sudden, who do you really have to beat? But you're skipping it to go try to win the Matt Winn, who nobody will remember in 2 weeks. I mean, it's a little bit crazy that you're that conservative with horses that they've shown they're not horrible. They would show up here. They would be on tickets for a lot of people.
Yeah, you got to take your swing like our boy Dan Tordjman does, who's going to join us here on the Progressive guest line. You can find his work over at America's Best Racing. He's at I always get this wrong, and Dan will have to correct me here, but he's at Anonymous Man on X and Anonymous Racing over on Instagram. Mr. Tordjman, how you doing today?
Good, man. Sorry about the video. I tried. I don't know what the heck's going on.
Well, it's all good. We unfortunately don't get to see the beautiful face in real time. But we got a nice picture here on the screen. Dan, wanted to start out talking about America's Best Racing and ABR Live, everything you guys do during those live race days. I know you were producing 3 or 4 shows on Preakness Saturday. You guys do a great job with it. What do you have planned for the Belmont here?
Yeah, so a little bit more scaled down for the Belmont, thankfully, because we're honestly on fumes. We're a small team, a hardworking team. We try to cover as much ground as possible, of course. But as you mentioned, Preakness, we were streaming live for, it must have been 4 or 5 hours. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of great guests on. We're streaming live from like the fan zone, so just a bunch of real, just kind of, just drunk and happy fans all around us betting and going nuts. So we love that. And for Belmont, we're going to be on site starting on Tuesday. We're going to be shooting a bunch of video. We've really put a lot of focus into our social media channels, specifically Instagram, TikTok, a little bit of X as well. But we're trying to take people into the sport and behind the scenes in a way that's different. So we try to tell stories that you're not going to see anywhere else. We try to tell them in unique ways, and we really just try to highlight the personalities and the horses and the places that make horse racing so amazing. So if you go onto Instagram, for example, or TikTok, you check out America's Best Racing, you'll see examples of what we're talking about. And we just had a great, we've had a great Triple Crown season, just massive increases in video views and reach and a ton of different things, largely aided by a partnership that we had with Griffin Johnson, who of course became sort of a household name for racing fans who might have ever heard of him with his association with Sandman. And, for us, big win in that he's reaching a bunch of people, largely younger fans who we want to get into the sport.
Yeah, you mentioned Griffin Johnson, and that's been a very cool thing for racing for sure. And he's brought a lot of wagering dollars with his subscribers and stuff like that. Can you just speak a little bit on like how that all came to be and how you kind of got him involved in this? Like I said, it's been a huge bump for racing.
Absolutely. When people started reaching out to me about a month ago, actually when Sandman won the Arkansas Derby and qualified for the Kentucky Derby, saying, "Oh my God, you guys are associated with this Griffin Johnson guy. That's great." And I think the assumption is that we had just started working with him, or that he, just bought a share in the horse or something like that. And it couldn't be any farther from reality. The truth is we created America's Best Racing, an influencer program 4 years ago called Stake and Stardom. And the idea was we would partner, racing syndicates, partnerships, groups with influencers that we would sort of handpick and reach out to and try to see if they would be game for not just showing up for one race, taking a photo at the track and moving on, but really for immersing themselves into the lives of a horse that we paired them with and telling a story over a sustained period of time. So that's what we did with Griffin. We actually matched him with Sandman and West Point Thoroughbreds last April. So we're talking 12, 13 months. And over that time, we put him in position to tell a story where we're getting him photos and video from the barn, and Sandman, working out and being, himself, right? Just kind of being quirky and weird. And we let Griffin tell that story and develop that story over time. And then Griffin put in a ton of work and made it so that this was like his son, like it's like his own child. He was like traveling, going to the races, feeding Sandman, petting him, and capturing all this content so that it wasn't sort of this overnight thing. Well, oh hey, by the way, like I own a horse. No, it was, hey, this is a horse who gets this incredible around-the-clock care. He's become like family to me. I love him so much. And then it was like, oh, my God, he's going to be in the Kentucky Derby. And so his audience, I think, naturally gravitated toward it because it wasn't just sort of this, hey, I own a horse and we're going to the Derby. It's like, no, this is like a member of our larger community that we've talked about for the past year is now going to the Kentucky Derby, and you, my followers, are coming along with us. So I think that's what made it so powerful.
Yeah, you guys did an incredible job to think about this. You mentioned it's a program that's been in motion for 4 years, and you're handpicking some of these influencers. And I've got to say, I've been very impressed with Griffin Johnson, everything that I've seen from him. The passion that he showed after the Kentucky Derby, I thought was phenomenal. And the fact that he has gotten himself more and more involved in horse racing, I think is a positive sign. And we need as much young blood as possible in this sport to help keep it going. Now, with that being said, I'm sure you've been rooting for Sandman the first couple races, but what do you think of this Triple Crown so far? I mean, we had Sovereignty, who I thought ran a phenomenal race in the Derby. Rarely do we see the three best horses actually run 1, 2, 3 there, and the Preakness had all kinds of drama. What's your take on the Derby or on the Triple Crown so far, and what are you looking forward to in the Belmont?
I thought it's been really exciting. I've really enjoyed it. Both races I thought were interesting puzzles. You looked at them as sort of races to handicap. I mean, I got crushed Derby Day, so I had nothing to really brag about. But, at the end of the day, it's been clear to me, I think, since day one that journalism is the best horse from this field of 3-year-olds. I haven't seen a horse better. And I think the one horse that keeps coming to mind for your watchers and listeners who have a little bit of history with horse racing and remember a Fleet Alex from 20 years ago, a horse who should have won the Triple Crown because of a range of circumstances in the Derby, was beaten by Giacomo, and which was a huge upset, and then came back and won the Preakness in the Belmont. I feel like we've got a similar situation with journalism. Certainly Sovereignty is better than Giacomo, and Sovereignty is a serious racehorse and is going to be sort of, battling with journalism, I think, throughout the year for top honors as 3-year-old. But I think journalism at this moment is the better horse. I think he should have won the Derby. I think he may have moved a touch too early. And just given his trip and the way that race played out, I feel like we're going to go back and look at that race and say, man, he won the Preakness. I do think he'll win the Belmont, and maybe he should have won the Triple Crown.
It's a bummer we don't even get the opportunity. Real quick, we got about a minute left, Dan. The Belmont comments yesterday with Sovereignty just saying, "Hey, we didn't even talk about the Preakness." What do you feel about that?
Well, I'm a Maryland guy. You're definitely setting me up here, man. you know, I didn't love that at all. You know what I'm saying? Especially Preakness 150. But nah, look, we still had a good time at Preakness, right? I mean, it was still an amazing race. I think it gave journalism an opportunity to shine. And look, it kind of, for those people who didn't like that move, it sets him up as a bit of a villain. They could root against him and hope that, journalism or one of these other horses beat Sovereignty. But also for those who are like, look, hey, it's his horse and there's a long campaign and a long year. I also get that argument. So seriously, Belmont knows a lot more about all this than I do. So, respect to him for whatever his decision was. I might have chose different words though.
I did not have Belmont being a heel on my bingo card in 2025. Dan, thank you very much for the time. You can find him over on X, the Denarius Man. You find him at Denarius Racing over on Instagram as well. Make sure you're following at ABR Live as well. Do a great job on race days. Dan, thank you for the time, man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
He is Dan Tordjman, one of the good guys in the sport. And like he said, he's from Maryland. I knew that Preakness comment might get him going a little bit, Aaron, there. Stick with us right here after the break. We'll be back. More VSiN at the Track, covering a couple of Churchill Downs stakes from Saturday's phenomenal card. Fun fact, Aaron, I actually did my first on-site broadcast with Dan at the Haskell. That was where I got my on-site start going.
Fun fact. I knew that. I absolutely remembered that happened because I love and support everybody that's been a part of my little community. And so, yeah, I remember when that happened. You didn't have to tell me.
It's always fun when you get to work with people that you really enjoy. Dan, one of the good guys inside horse racing. It's been phenomenal to see everything that they're doing over at ABR. And I love the fact, I get that a lot of people inside horse racing don't like the influencer thing. I love the fact that they're actually trying to get the influencers involved in the sport. It's not just a picture here, a picture there, show up at the races. It's actually trying to create the relationship so they understand and learn everything about the sport.
I'll make it very simple. Anything to get new people into this sport is a good thing.
You're tuned in to VSiN at the Track, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome back here, VSiN at the Track. I am Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman. Want to give a shout out to everyone who makes this possible. Our producer, Matt Deutsch, technical director, Ryan Smith, Ryan Heiner, who's on the audio operator, as well as our graphics operator, Rob Morano. We appreciate it. We would not be able to do this without you. So thank you very much for helping make VSiN at the Track possible. And Aaron, we are turning for home here, and we got to talk about some stakes action over at Churchill Downs. Saturday's card, an absolutely phenomenal one. We covered the late pick 5 over on the Magic Mike Show if you want to check that out. But two races that really jumped out to me. The first one, the Blame Stakes, the 10th race on the card, 1 1/8 over the dirt course. And we kind of teased this a little earlier. It's the return of Mystik Dan, who is 4-1 right now on the morning line. Post time, the 9-horse, your favorite, at 3-1. Who do you like here, and what do you make of this field overall?
Yeah, this is a heck of a field. Usually the week before a big race day like the Belmont, you don't see fields this good, but this is a good one for sure. I landed on the number 7 most wanted in this spot. This is a horse that as a 3-year-old last season kind of got going a little bit, late into the season. Yeah, it was June before this horse debuted. He debuted after all the Triple Crown had already been over, but he rattled off 4 wins in a row. He finished running second in the Clark Stakes at this track here last year, a really close second. And then this year, yes, he has 2 second-place finishes so far. He was defeated in his first race of the season by a horse named Skippy Longstocking, who has won multiple stakes races this year, including the Hollywood Gold Cup out at Santa Anita last weekend. And then last time out, he was a very close second to a horse named Fierceness. Fierceness is probably the best horse in the country right now. That is debatable. He is at least one of the top 3. I don't think that's debatable. Most Wanted gave him a run for his money. Only got beaten a length and a half. So I think here, look, it's a tough field, but this is a weaker bunch than he's been facing. So give me the number 7 Most Wanted. I think he's going to be pretty tough in this spot.
It is a weaker field than what he has been facing when you look at Fierceness and Skippy Longstocking, but I do believe there is more pace in the field today. You got Hall of Fame right to his inside who wants to go, Banishing, who's coming out of shorter races, probably wants to be forwardly placed. I think that all sets it up for the number 9 Post Time here, who's 3-1, who's going to want to come from off the pace. I love the fact that Brittany Russell had one race under this horse, so went out at Laurel Park, won a $55,000 optional allowance. That wasn't the goal. The last 2 times we saw this horse was in the Grade 2 Cigar Mile, where he ran behind Locked, and then the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, where he ran a good second in that spot. I think if we get back to either of those performances, it makes Post Time really dangerous here at 3-1. I would be remiss, Darren, if we didn't talk about the 3-horse Antiquarian as well as 50-1 on the morning line. We're both a little interested here in what Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez was going to be able to do with this long shot.
Yeah, we definitely are with the number 3 Antiquarian. And it's funny, we do a show on Thursday at Racing Dudes, and we don't really talk before the race or before the handicap, the races we're going to handicap. We don't talk before the show. And we both showed up and we both really liked the number 3 Antiquarian, like you said, 15-1. And so that's a very good sign. The horse will probably get bet a little bit harder than the morning line there at 15-1. But this is a horse that they really thought highly of last year. They tried to run this horse in the Belmont Stakes after he won the Peter Pan. And look, it was a little bit too much too soon. He did embarrass himself, though. Had a little bit of an injury, had a layoff, came back last time out, looked really good in the prep race for this one at Gulfstream Park. Just kind of get his feet under him and get ready for the bigger and better competition. I bet when they kind of circled this race, they thought it would come up a little bit lighter than it did because it is just a Grade 3 race. So, he's in a tough one. There's no doubt about it. This is a tough test. But he's not going to be intimidated. He ran in the Belmont, like I said, so he's been in tough races before. So, yeah, at 15-1, I think Antiquarian is very interesting. I don't know for sure if it's going to be on Saturday, but I do think there are a couple of nice races with his name on it. But I think he'll run well here, and I think at 15-1, he's worth a shot.
Yeah, second off the layoff here in the 4-year-old season, so logical improvement angle there for Antiquarian. He ran his best number of his career first off the layoff, which tells you that there's some upside here. He needs to improve, but at 15-1, I'm willing to take a little bit of a shot. We should at least mention the number 4, Mystik Dan. I know we're both against this horse. I'm just not a big fan of Mystik Dan. I feel like his 2 wins, if you really kind of circle them, are the Southwest and the Kentucky Derby. Both of those, he rode the rail after a very fast pace, set him up to be able to close. He's going to get the pace today, but at 4-1, it's hard for me to want to pull the trigger here. If I was getting closer to 10-1, I think maybe he's included in some of the multi-race stuff, but at 4-1, it's tough for me, Aaron.
That's the problem. I wouldn't be completely shocked if Mystik Dan wins this race. I thought his last race, he certainly was a lot better than we've seen him in a long time. He almost won last time out at Oaklawn Park against a decent enough horse. It's the odds. That's the problem. Because he's a Derby winner, he's always going to get bet like a Derby winner. And again, wouldn't be shocked, but I don't think he's the second or third most likely horse to win this race, and that's what his odds are going to be. So for me, from a wagering standpoint, I'm out on Mystik Dan.
Yeah, keep an eye on the number 6 Hall of Fame as well, 8-1 on the morning line. That's the horse I think should be shorter than that price. We'll see if he's able to run up and contend with some of these horses that have beaten him in the past, but still 8-1, not a terrible price. Let's rewind one race prior here, the 9th at Churchill Downs on the Saturday card, the Grade 3 Arlington going 1 1/16 over the turf course, Aaron. And this is one of those classic races where you got to decide whether or not you believe Mercante and what he has done the last 2 races. Was 13-1 in both of those spots, got a Grade 3 victory, and then ran a very good second in the Grade 1 Turf Classic to Spirit of St. Louis, a horse I know you like very much. Do you believe in Mercante, or do you think this is the funeral after going to the wedding?
Yeah, it's one of your favorite sayings, and it is a good one. Look, I ended up going against him as far as a win wager. I'm going to go with the number 9 Brilliant Birdie in this spot. This is another race that you see it kind of listed before the entries come out, and you go, oh, Grade 3 turf race, it won't be too bad. But then the entries come out, and you're like, wow, that's a really good race. And so Mercante, he ran very well last time out, but this Brilliant Birdie is a darn good horse as well. He's won 6 out of 9 races. He's won almost, getting close to $2 million in earnings. So he's very good. He comes off of a nice win right here at Churchill Downs last time out. He beat a horse named Laganos, who's in this race. He also beat a horse named Major Dude, who's a very nice one. And Brilliant Birdie was able to beat him. This is a solid horse. Even if the 8 is the real deal and kind of runs a big one, I still think Brilliant Birdie has a chance to run him down. And you talked about pace in the last race. I think there's going to be a decent amount of pace in this race as well. And I think that's going to set up really well for Brilliant Birdie. He sits kind of mid-pack usually when he's running his best. I think if the pace is really hot up front, I think Brilliant Birdie's going to come running. So give me the 9. Give me the 9 to kind of a very, very mild upset over the 8.
I'm interested to see how the betting goes in this. I think Brilliant Birdie goes off as the favorite, and I think that's deserving. I think on paper, Brilliant Birdie is the best horse. Yes, the numbers from the last 2 from Mercante are better, but I still need that to be validated with a win in one of these style of races before I'm willing to lay a short price on Mercante. So I like the pick of Brilliant Birdie, but I like the price of the number 2 Cameo Performance more, 8-1 on the morning line. This is a horse that's cutting back to a 1.16 off of that 1.125 Turf Classic, and that's important because when you go back and you watch that Turf Classic race where Spirit of St. Louis won, Mercante ran second, Cameo Performance draws a 7-10 post, is 4 wide on the first turn, has to go as wide as 7 on the second turn, and still gets within a length of the lead and then kind of fades toward the end. He covered more distance than almost anybody else in that field because of the wide trip all the way around. Now you're drawing the 2 posts, should be able to save ground early, is a closer, so that early speed you mentioned should be a positive, and I like the 8-1 price. If you want to be betting these races, like I said, head over to firstbet.com. But right now, we've got a trifecta for the GBank First Bet and VSiN action here, including the $500 trifecta from all 3 sponsors. All you need to do is open up a GBank signature Visa card in the first 90 days, deposit and play through $1,000 at First Bet to trigger the $500 trifecta. You'll receive a $200 cashback rewards bonus on your GBank signature Visa card. You'll get an additional $100 deposit match over at firstbet.com, and VSiN will complete the trifecta with a free VSiN Pro subscription through August 31st, a $200 value. That's $500 from GBank, FirstBet, and VSiN. Head over to VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSIN.com/GBank. The one-time promotion is limited to customers opening a new account in response to this offer and will not apply to requests to convert existing accounts. Apply today. Terms and conditions do apply, Aaron. Make sure you head over to First Bet, even if you're not taking advantage of that GBank trifecta. They've got some great tournaments going on this weekend as well, heading into next weekend. So just a phenomenal setup there from both GBank and VSiN. So make sure you're checking that out. Aaron, anyone else that you want to call out here in the Grade 3 Arlington?
Yeah, listen, you kind of convinced me yesterday on the number 3 Gigante. I think that's a very interesting horse here. Coming out of that same race you talked about, the Turf Classic, and just didn't kind of get that winning trip that he really needs. I think gets kind of towards the front, much easier competition today. I thought at 10-1 he was worth a try. Picks up Jose Ortiz to ride as well. I thought that was a very good sign.
Yeah, I do like him of the 2 Asmussen horses. I think he makes much more sense, even though the Laganos is the shorter price. I think this is a spot where Gigante could really be able to step up and take care of business. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here on VSiN at the Track, Road to the Belmont Stakes. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, at VSiN Live over on YouTube. And then we will have a live show on Saturday, Belmont Saturday as well, for a couple hours over on VSiN and Mad Dog Sports Radio. So make sure you are checking that as well. Thank you for watching VSiN at the Track. Good luck this weekend. Yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned Gigante there in the Grade 3 Arlington. I think the number 6 Call Protection, also very, very interesting. A horse for Mike Maker, who I thought was awesome last time out in an optional N3X $100,000 allowance. So that's another price in that wide open Arlington race that I think is interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think you talked me into that horse as well. Now that I remember, we went 5 deep, or at least I went 5 deep in there. And you made some really good, really strong cases. I think with turf racing, just a kind of a general comment for handicapping, I really think, trip handicapping is a very important thing. But I think in the turf, or on the turf, I should say, it's even more important than the dirt. Because I don't know, for whatever reason, Somich, and maybe you can speak on to it a little bit as to why, but for whatever reason, it just feels like horses get trapped, horses get weird trips on the turf more so than the dirt even. So you kind of called out a couple things when we were handicapping that race. I went back and looked and said, you know what, he's right. And that Turf Classic that we referenced a few times, it had some weird stuff happen in that race.
Yeah, it was an interesting race. Call protection last time out, 45-second opening half mile, broke from the 9 of 10 posts and was only 3 lengths off that 45 and 4 half mile. So he ran in like 46 and 2 essentially, was 3 wide and then 4 wide around the far turn in a 1.125 mile race and still ran the final furlong in 12 seconds, which is just a phenomenal effort considering you had all of that go against you. So I think there is some upside there on call protection as well. We should reference we both like the number 7 horse, Lush Lips, a lot in the closing race, the Grade 3 Regret there at Churchill Downs, the number 11th race. That ended up being both of our singles in the late pick 5. So both of us like Lush Lips quite a bit there to end the card, Aaron.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good race, but I just think Lush Lips, running behind Nitrogen a couple times, a horse that I really like and would certainly be a single if Nitrogen was in that race. But Lush Lips was kind of competitive 2 races back. Not even kind of, only got beat a half length. Last time out, it kind of looked like Lush Lips was in a good spot, may finish the deal, and then Nitrogen just went right on by. But that's a really nice horse. So, yeah, we like that horse. The one thing I'll mention, the races are off the turf today at Churchill. Hopefully we're okay weather-wise tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on that. But that would be a real downer if the weather ruins that card tomorrow.
Feels like it's one of those days they try and just keep it on the turf and then take it off the turf a couple days after just because of the number of grade stakes. Real quick news update here. Per Tom Ryan, per Curtis Manlow in the chat here, Citizen Bull and Madacat Road to the Woody Stevens. So that takes out 2 of the possible Baffert horses who would be in the Belmont if Rodriguez doesn't go. I think that's actually a positive sign for Rodriguez as well. The fact that you're starting to hear some of these other horses find their homes in races. So we will keep you updated. Make sure you join us next week here on VSiN At The Track. We'll go over the field, the draw, and everything that you need to know. Mr. Halterman will also be at Saratoga, so we're going to try and get him live from Saratoga on Saturday for the VSiN At The Track Belmont special. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here on a Friday. Oh, no. I'm sure sober Aaron won't be around, but we'll still have drunk Aaron on the air. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here, VSiN At The Track, Friday edition. We'll catch you next week. Same time, same place.